Hello and welcome to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
Back in studio. Got a great story for you this week.
Yeah, it's filled with all kinds of good stuff like drugs.
A cult.
A cult. That's fun. That's always fun.
Down below the wall, Mexico. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's no wall yet.
This
is pre-wall.
This is pre-wall if you're listening to this.
We got Texas. We got Mexico. We got, we're going to definitely ruin you guys with some more bad accents. We're going to do Mexican accents.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely coming.
Yes, let's take, everyone's tuning out now after last week's
and they're
terrible
like, okay,
British.
well, goodbye.
No, we're going to keep it to a minimum, we promise. And we have a new segment at the end of this episode, too.
Yeah, so stick around for that. That's going to be
Things
fun.
we got wrong last week. I'm just going to spoil it for you now. We're going to recap the shit that we got wrong last week at the end of the show. And we're going to do that every week because we always get shit wrong. So, and people remind us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram.
I feel like this is a lot of pressure, though, because like, what if we get it wrong while we're correcting ourselves? Whew.
Double wrong?
Yeah, double wrong.
No, it's like double jeopardy. You can't.
Oh, you can't be trying.
There's a statute of limitations on wrongness.
Okay.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
A generation ago, it was common for college students from Texas and beyond to go to border towns like Juarez, like Matamoros. There, the spring break crowds were plentiful, the drinking age was lower. But now you're about to learn, or in some cases be reminded, why all that changed.
Padre nuestro que estás en los cielos, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga tu reino. Hágase tu voluntad, así en la tierra como en el cielo.
Countless stories were generated across the country as well as books.
The prisoners said the human sacrifices cast a spell for them that protected them from arrest.
Mark Kilroy was an American college student, be a doctor. After a spring break trip with friends to Matamoros, he never returned, and it changed spring break for a generation that remembered it.
Danos hoy el pan nuestro de cada día.
He was abducted, picked off the street in the border town, which was then a popular spring break destination.
Y perdónanos nuestras deudas, como también nosotros hemos perdonado a nuestros deudores.
This story has become part of memory, but they want people to be aware that spring break episodes still happen, lives are still in danger. They want them to be careful.
Y no nos metas en tentación, mas líbranos del mal, porque tuyo es el reino, y el poder, y la gloria, para siempre jamás. Amen.
All right. Our case this week was actually a suggestion from a listener.
Nice.
Big shout out to Lori Lee. She emailed us a while back, and a lot of times when people send us suggestions, we don't look into them right away.
Right.
We're in the middle of doing whatever, living our lives. So we'll put them, stock them away, and we'll go search for people's suggestions later on. And she suggested this, I don't know how long ago, at least a month ago.
Right, yeah.
And I was just looking through our emails and typed into the search thing suggestion and found it in there, and I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is a good one.
Hey, every once in a while our listeners have a good idea.
Yeah. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
That's right. That's right.
Lori Lee, good job. You found a nut. It's a good one.
Even though we've done mostly suggestions.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So lots of nuts, man.
Except I don't think we've done a suggestion in a couple weeks.
Has it been a couple
The
weeks?
last couple, I think, were ones that I just stumbled upon myself.
Yeah, you've just been bombarding everybody with your
with
ideas.
my bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so this week it involves a cult, like as we alluded to, and drug running and
Ooh, is it satanic?
and
Because
innocent,
it doesn't have to be.
Satanic?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily satanic. We'll talk more about it.
That really pisses off.
Black magic, yes.
Really pisses off cult people when you assume they're satanic. Mm-hmm. They don't like that shit.
Yep.
You need to stop doing it, people. Just because you're in a cult
doesn't mean you're
satanic.
That's true. And there are good cults.
Yeah. You could be in like a...
You could be in the True Crime Guys cult. It's a good cult, doing good things.
You could be... Are we doing good things?
Yeah.
This is what you want
Don't drink Michael's Kool-Aid.
Don't...
It'll get you really high. That's all it'll All right, can we get into the fucking story?
Dude, do it.
All right, so this started in the early hours of Saturday, March 11th, 1989, when Mark Kilroy and three friends packed into a car and headed for South Padre Island. They were all
party.
they're all Texas natives. They're college kids. They were all former high school basketball teammates and friends. They didn't all still go to the same colleges. Right. They went off to colleges. Mark Kilroy was a senior at the University of Texas at Austin. And his three friends, Bill Huddleston and Bradley Moore, went to school together at Texas A&M. They're juniors. And then Brent Martin was a student at Alvin Community College, and he was driving. They were looking forward to a week of drinking, partying, girls on the beach, what you do on spring break if you're a college kid.
Right. And it happens a lot cheaper in Mexico, so go hang out.
Yeah.
I think it was like 8 hours from their school.
Yeah.
Something like that.
To drive down to South Padre Island,
yeah. I think they went to school in like the Santa Fe area. So.
Yeah, and they were going to be spending a whole week down there, living it up.
Nice.
Yeah, and Mark Kilroy is kind of the person that we're focusing on here, and you'll find out soon why. He was 21 years old. He was pre-med and a really good athlete. Coming out of high school, he ranked 14th in his class of 210 students. He had previously gone to Tarleton State University in Stevensville, Texas on a basketball scholarship, and then not too long after that, he gave up on the basketball and focused on becoming a medical student.
Right.
So that's
and all this stuff becomes important later on in the story. That's why.
Right. You'll learn why we're kind of talking so much about Mark Kilroy and how accomplished he was. He was a really
an athlete
smart,
and an academic.
Yeah. Just all American boy type of guy.
Yeah.
Now they come down to South Padre Island, and on Sunday the 12th, the four decided to make a short trip nearby to Brownsville and cross the Rio Grande to Matamoros. Matamoros is a city we're going to talk a lot about. It's a city just across the Rio Grande River to Mexico. So Matamoros is in Mexico, and Brownsville is just on the other side of the Rio Grande from that.
Okay.
So they go down there, they park their car, and they walk across the Rio Grande, across the border into Mexico. And this is something that a lot of college kids were doing during this time, during the late 80s, even into the early 90s.
Right.
And I think it eventually died off like by the 2000s, early 2000s. Kids stopped going down there as much because of stuff like this.
Stuff like this,
exactly. Each year, thousands of spring break students would cross over to Matamoros and hit Alvaro Obregón, a wide avenue of bars.
You couldn't have said that more Irish.
Alvaro
Obregón.
Dude, I cannot roll my tongue. I cannot roll my R's, so just bear with me. Alvaro Obregón.
Alvaro Obregón.
There you go. Okay, Michael's going to say it from now on.
Let's try.
I'm just going to point to you when it's time to say it.
Oh, great. Now I got to follow along.
I'm pointing. Fuck. I'm pointing.
Oh, Alvaro Obregón.
Was a wide avenue of bars where all the college kids would hang out. It's like a strip there's bars and restaurants and everything. And
is that something that are in towns, like strips and stuff?
Well, I'm just making a point that they weren't going to Matamoros. They weren't going to Matamoros for anything else other than this strip that was just over the bridge where you can go and drink and.
Yeah, they had like Coronas for like $1.
I think the strip was set up just for tourists to come over and try to get some American dollars to come over and boost their economy a bit.
Right.
And the reason the kids would go over there is for cheap drinks and because of their very lax policies as far as ages.
I think they could drink at 16.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. So we talked about how Mark Kilroy was 21, but a couple of his friends were juniors in college. So I don't know if maybe they were 20 or 19, and maybe they couldn't quite drink in Texas yet.
Right.
So that's why they wanted to go over there. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure they were getting drinks. They're getting in Texas. They were getting their hands on them. It's spring break. It's not that hard. But as far as going and hanging out,
it's not that hard.
But as far as going and hanging out at a bar, and not worrying about getting carded and stuff, I'm sure they could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worry less about that down in Mexico.
For sure.
They met with 4 girls from Kansas earlier in Texas, and they kind of like followed each other down to Matamoros. And that's when they got to Matamoros, they hung out all together at a bar called Sergeant Pepper's.
Where were the girls from, though, Lorne? You got to say where the girls are from.
Kansas.
Oh, did you say that already?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I was
jerk.
I'm just making sure our Kansas.
You don't want it to end up at the end of the show on the things we got wrong.
Making sure our Kansas people get their credit too.
Right. What up, Kansas?
What's going on?
The boys drank and danced with the girls until about 2:30 a.m. and then they headed back to their hotel. So I talked about how this was Sunday night, right? That I believe.
Yep.
The following night, they decided to pay a second visit to Matamoros. That night, Matamoros was flooded with 15,000 spring break tourists from the U.S.
There was probably some kind of big thing going on that night, and they were like, "Oh, you got to come back."
Right.
I feel like that's how it went.
Again, they parked their car on the American side of the border and walked across the bridge to Cali, Oregon. Cali, Oregon. So I'm pointing to you. What is it?
I'm not sure. That looks exactly like Oregon.
It does. Cali, Oregon.
Right.
Damn it! I went
Calle.
fucking Irish again. I'm too white for this.
Oregon.
I'm too white for this.
Okay.
The first stop was El Sombrero. They had a couple of drinks before moving a few blocks further down the street to a bar called the Hard Rock. And I read a bit about that, and I guess Matamoros had changed the name from like a Hispanic-sounding bar to the Hard Rock to try and appeal to the white kids coming across.
I was just about to say that if you didn't mention it.
Yeah. There, Mark left the group to talk to a woman at the bar for a while. Now, this is kind of fishy when you learn a little bit more about this story later on. This part is kind of like, remember that. He's talking to a girl at this bar.
Right.
At the Hard Rock. And eventually he would say goodbye to the girl, and the four started walking back to the bridge. This was about 2 a.m. When they're headed back to their hotel. And about 200 feet before the American border, Bill Huddleston is walking with Mark and the other two, kind of like we're doing their own thing, I guess. Right. And Bill Huddleston ran ahead a little bit away from Mark to go pee, like in the bushes. I think there was like a little park, and he went to go pee on some bush, and they were about to cross the bridge. As he left Mark's side, Huddleston noticed a Mexican man motioning in their direction. This is something he would later say. He said he thought it was maybe someone Mark might have known. Mark seemed like a guy that knew a lot of people. He's very socialite.
8 hours away from where he lived in another country.
Yeah. Because like even the girl at the bar, supposedly the story, when you look into it, they were saying like he knew this girl at the bar at the Hard Rock in Matamoros. But I think what had happened was they were going at their hotel back in Texas. They were going to these tan line competitions or tanning competitions or something.
Yeah, that's
and this
what
girl
do.
won it. I think this girl won that. That's how he knew her from the Hard Rock or some shit. Anyways, Mark got separated from Huddleston. Huddleston took off to go pee, and when Huddleston came back, Mark wasn't there anymore.
Right.
And he then met up with the other two boys, and
they hadn't
seen Mark either. And so you can read different sources that say that they waited in their car across the bridge in Texas for a few minutes and then left. You can also read people that say that they searched for hours in Matamoros for Mark until like 4:30 a.m. and the streets had all cleared out, the bars were all closed.
Right. Well, the main account that I heard from Bill Huddleston was that they waited for a little while there, but they didn't like go searching for him. They just assumed that he
got a ride with somebody,
with the girl, or got a ride with somebody or something.
Well,
like
if Huddleston actually believed that the Hispanic guy that he saw motioning to him, if Mark actually knew him, maybe they thought that guy gave him a ride back to the hotel. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or the girl that Mark was talking to at the bar.
Right.
Talked about how social he was. It seems. But they'd all been drinking as well, so maybe you have to account for that a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
Like the last 2 or 3 episodes we've done involved people drinking and getting separated from their friends, and then bad things happening.
Right.
They woke up the next day, the friends did, at the hotel, and Kilroy still was nowhere to be found. They hadn't heard from him, hadn't seen him, and so at this point they decided to contact the police and report him missing. Now, Kilroy was one of 60 people who had disappeared in Matamoros in the first 3 months of 1989. The difference is, I know it's becoming a bad trend there. Now, the difference between Mark Kilroy and the other 59 people or the other 60 people that came up missing from Matamoros is that Mark
he was white.
Part of it, I'm sure. Yeah, I think that was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of later we would find out that a lot of those people were involved in drugs and narcotics and selling them and all that stuff. So maybe there just wasn't going to be people reporting them missing.
Right.
Mark had an uncle named Ken Kilroy who worked for the U.S. Customs in L.A. And when the news reached his uncle, a police task force was created in Brownsville, Texas, to search for Kilroy. Now, there was also a U.S. representative, I forget what the proper term was, down in Mexico, like a consulate or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That got notified as well, and he put out the word to hospitals and jails and stuff to look for Mark Kilroy. Put out his name and a picture of him. Matamoros officials were alarmed with the bad publicity of his disappearance and the potential effects of tourism. Naturally. Yeah. The Mexican federal police vowed to work on his case and helped the U.S. investigators. Mexican agents and U.S. officials worked together in Matamoros, questioned informants, potential witnesses, and worked on tips. And the little documentary, I'm sure you watched it on YouTube. I watched it a few times with the one guy that was the federale at the time.
Yep.
And he's a really good storyteller. It's a cool little documentary. It's basically just him telling the story.
Yeah.
And he talked about how their way of doing things down there as far as looking for a person, They don't need warrants. They just go kicking down doors.
Yeah.
Beating people up if they have to.
You're federal police
very,
there. It's like you do what you want,
very
I guess.
hands-on down there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they start, questioning informants.
Is he under the table? Flip it over, Mitch.
Yeah. I even read something that said that a hypnotist was brought in. Bradley Moore was put in front
to see if he subconsciously remembered extra things.
And when he was hypnotized, he said that he was able to recall that he had seen a Hispanic man with a cut on his face talking to Mark.
Whoa.
Creepy, right? Now, maybe he just dreamed that. I don't know. Because that sounds like, what's his name from all the movies?
You don't believe in hypnotism?
I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to have it happen to me. But I think they usually aim for people that aren't skeptical about it, so I probably wouldn't be chosen to
probably
be hypnotized.
You got to have the right attitude.
I'd just be fighting it the whole time. What's his name, though, from all the movies? Danny Trejo. I picture that's who he saw in his head. He's like, I saw him talking to a guy who looked just like Danny Trejo.
Just like Machete.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mark's parents, James and Helen Kilroy, flew to Brownsville to lead the search. Over the next few weeks, the Kilroys campaigned to locate their son. They circulated 20,000 leaflets throughout the Rio Grande Valley, offering a $15,000 reward for any information concerning his whereabouts. 15,000 must have been at least a few million pesos, right?
You think so?
Dude.
Is it that big of a jump?
Yeah.
Whoa.
It's a lot. I don't know. Tweet at us that I'm wrong if you want.
I think you're wrong. You want me to search it?
Yeah, go ahead. The Kilroys also met with representatives of several key Texas officials, including the Attorney General, the Governor, and the Senator. Well, a Senator.
Okay, so I got the ratio of $15,000 to pesos.
Now this is current though, so the number you're going to say is currently what 15,000
right.
pesos.
So it'd actually be less.
Right.
But 267,093
pesos for $15,000.
I just did that
American.
math in my head. So
yeah, right on.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. It sounds like a lot, but it's all relative.
267,000
for a beer down in Mexico is like what, a couple hundred pesos probably.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So it's not going as far as it sounds.
Right.
Okay, so on Sunday, March 26th, Mark Kilroy's case was featured on America's Most Wanted. Now, that's the kind of publicity this thing was getting. And we even watched, after everything kind of got resolved,
right,
in a sense, we watched the whole Oprah. She had like a five-part special on this whole thing as well. So it was a big story back then in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, if you want to hear the actual killing step by step, that detective that was there, he spared no details.
Yeah,
and on Oprah, I was like, damn, Oprah, you bringing the heat in the 90s. Damn.
Right, hitting them with the hard questions too.
Yeah, for real.
Some of the freaking experts are like people she called on, had on the show with the actual experts. You're like, I don't know about this one. There was one lady she had on one of the parts where I'm like, okay. This is a little bogus. And I was reading all the comments on YouTube, and they were all like, this chick is full of shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she claimed to be a part of some cult or something, but I guess she was proven to be wrong. And
the cult people are like, no, we don't even want her.
Yeah, like she tried to write a book, and people wouldn't publish it because it was all bogus. And
man.
Anyways, Oprah, come on.
Well,
great. Like five parts of it. Four out of the five were good. But
I think she did a great job exposing that lady, though.
Oh, no doubt.
Because now more people saw her, and then,
Yeah.
Oprah does more good than bad, Lorne.
I'm not trying to hate on Oprah, man. That's not what I'm here for.
Jesus.
Big fan.
Way more good. Probably no bad.
Yeah. Probably no bad. I mean, she gives away shit like crazy.
Right?
How's that bad?
Right.
You go to see her show, you might get a car.
I think she's paid for all of her probably tiny little sins that she's created.
I feel like Ellen just ripped her off.
She did. She did in a way. In a way. Yeah.
Coincidentally, during March, the United States and Mexico announced the implementation of a massive drug interdiction program along the border. Now, this is strange because it was right around the same time of Mark Kilroy's disappearance, but it was unrelated. It was just like this was just happening at the same time, but it ended up being the reason that things broke for the case.
I like to think it's just white privilege. I mean, there's
what? What are you talking about? This is going off the rails now.
No, they just bring this up. They're like, we need a bigger search for this kid.
This
kid's going to be somebody.
Like I said, it was unrelated.
Let's implement a drug search.
No. Well, who knows?
See, you're second guessing yourself.
It is coincidental. It's strange.
Right.
The operation included 1,200 agents, a dozen helicopters, and 30 airplanes. It was described by one official as possibly the largest of its kind. And on April 1st, about 3 weeks after Mark Kilroy had disappeared, A resident of Matamoros was arrested for running a routine police roadblock and possessing marijuana. Now
how dare he?
This was part of their operation, as they were doing a lot more stops and checks of vehicles, and this dude just blew right through it in his pickup.
He's like, no.
Yeah. So the police decided to follow him, and the truck led them to a ranch where the man was at the ranch for like 20 minutes, got back in his vehicle, and started heading back into the city, because this ranch was a little bit outside of Matamoros. Mm-hmm. And so when they started following him from the ranch, he started heading back into the city. That's when they pulled him over. And the man, his name was Hernandez. Police arrested Serafin and did a quick search of the property and found 250 pounds of marijuana approximately.
Is that all?
Yeah.
That's a good weekend.
Now, I heard 75 pounds from another source. I don't know, man. Some people just make shit up, but it's very likely that it was up to 250 pounds. When you learn later how much marijuana was being moved out of this ranch, it was more like hundreds of pounds per week.
Yeah.
So 250, it doesn't sound that unreasonable to have had at this ranch. It was a shitload of weed. That's all we just big old freaking blocks of pot.
Right.
They also found, during their quick search, police also found a small brick building, and when they went inside, it creeped them out, to say the least. So they walked in, and there's this strange metal pot sitting in the middle of the room.
Right. A cauldron, one might say, maybe.
Yeah, cauldron. It's got like sticks and shit sticking out of it, and there's like animal stuff, like animal parts and stuff in there.
Bones.
Like a dead turtle. Like there's like a turtle in there. Huh. And there was candles everywhere in this room.
Specific. Like half-melted candles everywhere.
And
like the creepy kind, too, that like rode off on the sides and dripped down off the plate and everything. It's like the real creepy kind.
Candles that have actually been used, is that what you're saying?
Like a lot, though.
Long seances being used for this candle.
Yeah.
So, like, the police, I think, on initial vibes when they walked in, thought that there was some kind of Santeria going on in here. Santeria.
Mm-hmm. Well.
But they would find out later it's not necessarily Santeria.
Right. And he was like, I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball.
Yeah. So police would bring back Serafin to the police station. They'd also bring back a caretaker from the ranch to the police station and begin,
they question him if they've seen Mark. Now,
when the caretaker was back at the police station, he would see a picture of Mark Kilroy in the police station, and he would actually say to the police officers, "I know that boy." And
Why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I know.
This just
He's
shows
the one who
their
took it all.
confidence.
He's the one who took this damn caretaker, took them all down.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting to note that the police were not looking. They didn't necessarily think that this was at all connected to Mark Kilroy. They a guy blew through a fucking roadblock. They took him back. They found pot at this ranch. They probably thought it was some kind of an operation, smuggling drugs going on at this ranch. But they didn't necessarily think there was any connection to Mark Kilroy until this caretaker sees a picture of Mark Kilroy at the station and says, "I know that boy," and tells the police that he had given Mark bread and water the night that he was kidnapped. He had been kept in a pickup truck, and he was feeding him. And police then got Serafin from his cell and showed him the picture of Mark. And Serafin just starts spracking off. He tells him everything right away. He goes, "Yeah, that he's dead. He's at the ranch.
No emotion, no remorse. Like, does not care that he is. Yeah, he's just stating facts here.
Yeah, and it's believed now that he felt that he was untouchable because
thought there was a protection from a certain ritual.
Yeah, and under questioning, he would reveal that several drug dealers that he worked with, and reveal that his family owned a small ranch about 20 miles west of Matamoros. That was the ranch that the police had already been to. That was the Hernandez family ranch. That was his family's ranch, and they were using it to smuggle and move around drugs.
Right.
He also told the police about a man that he and his comrades called El Padrino, which is the Godfather in Spanish.
Right. I like it.
And that's when the story gets real weird. Because El Padrino was a man named Adolfo Constanzo. Serafin believed that El Padrino was untouchable by the law, bulletproof, couldn't be killed, and that at any moment, the reason he was telling the police all this is because he thought he was invincible. That
absolutely
the law couldn't touch him because Adolfo and all of their black magic that we'll get into was protecting him from the law. That's what it was all about. And so, you want to talk a little bit more about Adolfo Constanzo?
Yeah, you want to go back to his history real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about this guy, because it's really what this story's mainly about, is this guy. He's a character. Adolfo Constanzo was born in Miami, Florida in 1962. So he wasn't even Mexican. Like he was actually
son of a Cuban immigrant.
Yeah, he was born in the U.S. and his mother was a Cuban immigrant. He was baptized Catholic and served as an altar boy, but also accompanied his mother on trips to Haiti when he was younger to learn about voodoo.
Now, his dad died at a young age, right?
Right, and his mother had 2 other sons with 2 different men as well, so it was kind of a...
Now, there's a little space in time, even at a young age, where he's, progressing, and she's teaching him Palo already.
Yeah.
She's
Palo Mayombe. What is Palo? Let's go.
Well, you gotta bring it in here.
Let's bring Palo in because
he's being taught this as like his first, contact with any kind of spirituality or whatever, any kind of theory of how the world works. This is his first religion.
Well, he was baptized Catholic first, but then his mom.
She met a man. She met a man later in life who was a devout Catholic, and she remarried him. He's the one that drugged them to mass.
Oh.
And she basically...
But she'd been taking him to Haiti to learn about this Palo Mayombe, which...
To me, it seemed like an act. She was like, just please your new father, we'll do this, whatever, and we'll do our teachings when he's not around.
Right.
Go ahead and get baptized, all that stuff, sure. But, you're still going to grow up and be a fucking sorcerer.
Right. Well, let's talk about Palo Mayombe. I hope I'm saying that right. Probably not, but... You get it. Go ahead, Mike.
So it originated from the African Congo. It's said to be the world's most powerful and feared form of black magic.
Now, not Satanism. As much as I read, I never heard anything about Satan. It's just
not technically.
It just uses dark forces to protect you from whatever, right? Like whatever you choose to be protected from. And in their case, it was to be protected from the law, so that they could do their drug smuggling without any issues.
Right. I think it would translate into a form of like a Satanism cult religion, but it wasn't necessarily. But that could just be terminology differences in cultures, like from Africa to Mexico to. There's even. Let's not be.
I think it morphs too. I think it morphs. Like he goes down to Africa and learns about it, and then he morphs it with a little bit of stuff that he learned elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
That's true. In Santeria religion, there exists a dark side called Palo Mayombe. Individuals who practice this dark aspect are called Palero. And Palo Mayombe is a very long and dark history. The influence of Palo Mayombe can be found in Central America, Brazil, and Mexico. The differences between Palo Mayombe and Santeria is the religion of Santeria uses the forces of light, and the members of the Palo Mayombe uses the forces of darkness to achieve their goals and magic spells. So like we talked about, their goals were being protected as far as like from the police and being locked in jail for their drug sales.
So how would Santeria use light? Like what does that mean?
I'm not sure. Oh. I'm not a Santeria expert, my friend.
So you're using magic, but you're using magic for God.
Yeah, many members of the Santeria avoid being associated with Palo. It's like the dark. It's like we're not them.
We're not
that
them.
Type of thing.
Don't get it twisted.
Calm down.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Now they also don't advertise when the Paleros aren't advertising.
Strictly word of mouth.
This is on the down low, and you can only really like have a practitioner do it to you or like use it for you if it's by referral.
Well, a lot of their rituals include killing animals.
Yeah.
Even exotic animals.
Right.
Lions and zebras. So, yeah, you kind of got to keep that on the down low.
Yeah, and when Adolfo got good at this, he was a powerful man in Mexico City.
Gosh, and very wealthy, too.
Right.
Like, he paid cash, I think, for like a $60,000 condo.
Yeah, because during the time right before he gets discovered as being a part of this whole thing here, he's doing this on the down low in Mexico City, and he's got like a group of people that are doing it with him, and he's doing this black magic for politicians, for policemen, for celebrities.
He's still a Catholic in his story.
All right, so let's go back through his history, and we'll get back to that. This guy is just so interesting, and he looks just like Emilio Estevez. So.
He does.
or Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now. He looks pretty much just like that.
There you go.
So we talked about how he was studying voodoo in Haiti with his mom when he was younger, and then after that, she moved to San Juan. He moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico with his mom after her first husband died, and she remarried there. The family returned to Miami in 1972, and his stepfather died soon after, leaving the family with some money.
Man, these husbands just keep dropping, huh? That's crazy.
I wonder if she's doing some kind of black magic on him.
Right.
Taking that money afterwards. As a teenager, Constanzo became apprenticed to a local sorcerer and began to practice a religion called Palo Mayombe. We've already gone through that.
Right. Hey, also, real quick, in his upbringing, he was also taught a life of crime by his mother, too.
Yeah.
She used him in cons and
Yeah, they were thieves.
heists and all sorts of things. So yeah, he's no stranger to breaking the law, even at a young age.
Yeah. His mother then remarried, and his new stepfather was involved in the religion and drug dealing as well. So,
Good luck, fella.
Yeah. As an adult, Constanzo moved to Mexico City and met the men who were to become his followers: Martin Quintana, Jorge Montes.
He was actually dating these two guys at the same time. He was gay.
Yeah, he was gay.
Yeah, he was dating these two guys at the same time
Yeah.
before they became his followers, and they were okay with that. Like that's how powerful he was.
He was a true cult leader in the sense that he was able to
Very charismatic.
Very charismatic. He got people to believe in what he was selling right away.
right.
They believed that he was a practitioner of this dark magic, and he was good at it, and that he could perform things and protect them.
That's right. Like these men fell in love with him quick.
Yeah.
And they knew that there was something special about him. And it was also when he was just a baby, like one of the big Palo leaders in his mother's community, I guess foreseen that
he was going to be
great. He was going to be a great leader. And she told him that his whole life. So he grew up going all through school and life in general thinking, hey, I'm the shit.
Yeah.
I'm better than everybody. I'm the chosen one.
Yeah.
Like he literally grew up thinking that way, and nothing stood in his way.
Yeah. So once he moved to Mexico City and he got these men to become his followers, another one was Omar Orea. They began to run the business we were talking about, a profitable business, casting spells to bring good luck, which involved expensive ritual sacrifices, chickens, goats, snakes, zebras.
Lion cubs.
Even lion cubs they would use.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was the more expensive end as far as the protection.
I think they were $3,100, actually.
Really?
Actually, I read that up. Seriously, yeah. They were
Now, how many pesos is that quick?
Fuck! I've been exposed. I know you. I know if you were on a budget though, you could get a rooster for $6.
No shit.
Yeah, no shit. If you just needed a small favor, maybe somebody, maybe
only 2 million pesos.
You wish like constipation on somebody.
Oh yeah,
something like that. You can just get you can just
give them a toothache.
I'm sorry, but a real bad one.
You're gonna have a mild migraine tomorrow, motherfucker.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this is only 5 pesos? God damn.
Right. I can give him a bad splinter.
Oh, your back's going to itch in a place you can't reach, bitch.
You're going to have the itchiest asshole tomorrow. Many of his clients, as we talked about, were rich drug dealers and even hitmen who enjoyed the violence of Constanzo's magical displays.
Hey, but they weren't all bad people, though. That were his customers. There was a lot of crooked cops in there.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
that's bad people, though.
Politicians. I'm talking about bad people in the spotlight. You would think drug dealers and people like that would come to him, but there's a lot of people undercover coming to him too.
Right. He also attracted rich members of society, including several high-ranking policemen,
right.
And they introduced him to many of the city's powerful narcotic cartels, and that's where he became obsessed with being high up in a cartel.
Have you talked to Juan around the corner? I arrested him like 10 times.
Hey man, he gave me at least a few pounds for Christmas.
At least a few pounds.
Constanzo began to believe that his magic spells, many of which he took from Palo Mayombe, were responsible for the success of the cartels, and demanded to become a full business partner with one of the most powerful families he could think of.
Right.
The Calzadas.
Calzadas, I would think.
Calzadas?
Let's call it Calzadas.
All right. He wanted to be a high-ranking member of the Calzadas.
Yeah.
But he was rejected by the Calzadas.
He did not like it that very much.
After that, 7 family members disappeared.
Boom.
He sacrificed like a fucking elephant for that.
Yeah, they found like all the shit that they found the first time.
Yeah.
When his ranch was raided, all that shit was all in the Calzadas place.
Their bodies would later turn up with fingers, toes, ears, brains, and even in one case, the spine missing.
Yikes.
Don't cross the El Padrino.
No. You know what though? Do you think his magic, like, for him to get that big of a customer base, this shit had to work. Or at least he got lucky a lot.
I think believing goes a long way. I think if you convince someone that it actually worked, positivity, like believing good things are going to happen, goes a long way. You
that's
have
true.
a
The
positive
power of
outlook.
positive thought.
Yeah.
Well, also, I feel like if you're convinced in a religion and you've crossed that line and you are part of that religion, it's like you'll find excuses.
Yes.
You'll find back doors for why it didn't happen or this, and you blame it on yourself. And okay, it couldn't be him. It must be because I didn't, I didn't pick out a big enough rooster, or you're making excuses, I guess, or maybe it's all about timing. That's one of That's one of like Christianity's favorite things. Oh, it's all in timing.
Right.
So.
Oh, no doubt. They would have believed regardless of whether it worked, I'm sure. If they wanted to believe, they're going to keep believing.
Right.
He also took up with a young woman named Sara Aldrete, who became the high priestess of the cult. Now, Sara Aldrete is, I don't know if that's the proper way to say it. Aldrete.
I like your attempt. You're doing a good job.
Aldrete.
You're doing the best
Sara
you can.
Aldrete. Sara Aldrete.
Down south, we call it Andretti.
Mario Andretti.
Andretti. No,
Anyway, Sarah. We'll just say Sara. Okay? Sara.
Oh, man, you changing that on me now. Okay, I don't even know what's right now.
Well, it's Sara. There's no H, so Sara.
Okay. Maybe
Sara Aldrete.
A white mom.
He met her, and I think she kind of she was wooed by him. We talked about how charismatic he was.
Yeah.
She was an upstanding citizen in Texas, actually. She was a college student. She was she was an honor student in college.
But her birthday matched his mom's birthday. So they're destined to be together.
Obviously.
Lauren. So forget all of this shit you got going for you.
Right.
My mom and your birthday match. Let's go do cult shit.
Right.
Okay?
Let's go do cult shit.
Okay? This is a sign.
Let's go do cult shit.
Right?
That's a shirt.
Copyright.
TCG, let's go do cult shit. Your little drawing on Instagram, by the way, that was nice.
You like that?
Although we got to be careful with the TCG thing. True Crime Garage kind of already pegged that, didn't they?
That's a good point.
I don't want to get accused of ripping them
free
off
advertisement, I think, for them.
That's true.
Although
they don't have
our tiny fan base.
We better get our hands on Let's Go Do Cult Shit before they get it.
That's true.
So Sara Aldrete, she became the high priestess of his cult. She wanted to be with him, but when she found out that he was gay, so that wasn't going to happen. But then she still had to be a part of this. She still had to be around him, and she had like a double life going on. She was a star athlete, like a volleyball player, and a really good student in college, and like well liked over in Texas. And then she would cross that border, and she'd become a different person completely.
Right.
And she would end up introducing El Padrino, Adolfo Constanzo, Adolfo, not Adolf.
Yeah.
Zabul. She would end up introducing Adolfo to the Hernandez brothers, actually, and this would become his little
Cartel.
Right. Yeah. He was working. He had a baby cartel going.
Yeah.
He wasn't quite the Calzetas yet.
Right.
But he was getting there. They were moving some pot for sure. The Hernandez brothers, she would introduce them, and they had their thing going. And in 1988, Constanzo moved to Rancho Santa Elena, a house in the desert. It is there that he carried out more sadistic ritual murders, sometimes of strangers and other times of rival drug dealers. This is where it got real dark as far as
people who crossed him in his own cartel too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he wanted this cartel that he was starting, that he was the godfather of, to blow up and take over.
He thought he was like fucking Pablo Escobar or something.
He might have been on his way had this damn caretaker not ruined it.
That's
he also used the ranch to store huge shipments of cocaine and marijuana. So I didn't even realize that he was shipping coke too.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think they had.
I think to stay in the game,
they had Cuban connections. They had Cuban connections. His mother.
Right. Escobar was probably supplying him.
Right. Early on in the game.
He bought from Escobar.
Right. Now, on April 11th, Serafin Hernandez was taken in handcuffs. This is after he basically said, yeah, I kidnapped Mark Kilroy, and he's buried on the ranch. We're back on the timeline now. Just to be clear, we're back on the main story.
Right.
On April 11th, Serafin Hernandez was taken in handcuffs to the Santa Elena Ranch, led by Comandante Juan Benitez Ayala. This guy's a badass. Now, this documentary we watched, the guy that was in the federales back then, talked about this dude, Juan Benitez Ayala. Yeah. He said he stood about 5 feet tall, but he was the biggest man in the room. When he walked in, everybody was scared shitless of him because he had taken down so many powerful cartel members. This guy loved his job. He loved to take down drug dealers.
Absolutely.
You get the sense he loved his homeland. He loved Mexico, and he wanted it to do well and not have, drugs be its main
source of income.
Main source of income and all that. And, you know, you can watch videos. You can actually watch the video. In the documentary, it showed footage of them taking Serafin out to the ranch and walking around and pointing out where Mark's body was. And this is where they found out. Because Ayala told Serafin to show him where the body was, and Serafin said, which one? And Ayala's like, quit fucking with me. Gets pissed off, and he's like, you know who the fuck we're talking about.
Right.
You know, Mark Kilroy. But Serafin's like, no, seriously, which one? Like, there's a lot of bodies buried out here. And that's when the police realized really what they were dealing with here. Many bodies were buried in different wooden corrals that were on this ranch. One of them, Serafin said his name was Gilberto, and they said, what's his last name? He's like, I don't know. Gilberto. That's his name. Yeah. Serafin started walking around and showing the police where he knew, you know, there's bodies buried here, here. Mark was over in the corner, and they said, well, where exactly? And he said, where that wire is sticking up out of the ground. And they said, a wire? What are you talking about, a wire? And they said, El Padrino wanted us to save his backbone, so that they could make a necklace out of it.
Right. So they actually ran the wire through there, so they could just pull the whole thing out of the ground without having to.
They actually ran a wire down through his spinal cord, and they were going to basically, when the body decomposed, they were going to pull that wire and get the backbone out, which is just fucking creepy.
It's considered good luck.
Good luck, and I'm sure Adolfo would have considered it more protection if he was wearing this kid's backbone. And the reason we come to find out that they targeted Mark Kilroy, of all people, was that Adolfo said he sent his boys out that night to find somebody smart, a brainiac, basically. And this is where I think that maybe the person that maybe Mark ran into Sara. Maybe she was out, and she, Sara. You know, she could speak English and everything. She was a college student in Texas. Maybe she got wind of the fact that Mark was a med student.
Has there been any connections made? I mean, I thought about that, but has there been any actual connections?
I don't know. This is speculation.
You found I couldn't find.
This is speculation on my part. Okay. But the dude in the documentary, the federale that tells the story, says that they somehow, his guys that kidnapped Mark got wind that he was smart and he was a med student.
How else would they have? Yeah,
right.
You're right.
And that's why they kidnapped him specifically. Yeah. And they would end up wanting to put his brain in that metal pot that they had because they thought that would bring. And whatever they added to that pot, they thought that they actually killed like a really strong, muscly guy one time because they thought it would add strength to their cartel. Yeah. You know, and they wanted more brains to their cartel, I guess. So they add this brain to the pot. It's so simple. You know, it's a simple thinking way to go about doing things. But
yeah, it's weird that even at this day and age, there's still a religion that feels like they need to sacrifice actual physical things to a god to get what they want. Mm-hmm. I feel like, you know, it took the Mayans a long time to figure out they didn't have to. You know,
well, nothing that's ever been created, I think, ever really dies completely. There's always going to be a group of people that still believe in some old school shit. No. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And if there's somebody who can get power from claiming that he's good at it, he's going to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. Because he was very theatrical with it too.
Yeah,
that was a draw.
Police would end up having Serafin dig up the bodies himself. Now, there's footage of him actually digging these bodies up. He's like gagging, and that's some Mexico shit right there. Like, that doesn't happen in the U.S. If they find out there's bodies buried, they bring in like the excavation.
Well, they did eventually.
They bring in CSI to do it carefully so they don't lose evidence. Right, so this dude's just taking a shovel, and they're like, "What are you looking at, fucker? Turn around and keep digging." Literally, there was a part in it where they're like, "Get busy. What are you doing?"
And he's sitting there, fucking caretaker, should be doing this shit, man. You don't want everything right here.
And early on, as he's digging these bodies up and telling them more and more about, you know, the Godfather and this and that, he still thinks that he still thinks Adolfo's going to come in and save the day. And the police are talking about, the federales later talk about how, like, he was still cold during this. He's asking them, like, are we going to have lunch soon, as he's digging these bodies up? And he thinks he's not going to prison forever. He doesn't realize how much trouble he's in. He thinks he's protected. Yep. But at one point, Ayala, the badass Comandante,
he's like, listen, bro.
He takes his automatic weapon and starts firing rounds in the air.
Uzi, apparently. Yeah, according to that detective's story.
He takes his Uzi and he starts firing rounds off in the air, and he goes, "You think guns can't hurt you?"
Right by his head too, though. Yeah, right by his ear. He just held the gun up by his ear and was firing.
Yeah, and at that point, Serafin, the Comandante shook him a bit, and you see his eyes change, and they open up wide, and all of a sudden he realizes the mess that he's in, and that he can be harmed, and that he's not protected. And they would end up digging up many bodies from there. They would end up giving up on the whole having Serafin dig them up because it would just take too long. And they found a tractor on the property. And they would end up excavating 15 mutilated bodies, including Kilroy's, who had been killed over a period of 9 months, these 15 different bodies. The victims had been ritually slain in the belief that human sacrifices would make the gang invincible and protect the drug businesses from the police. Only 3 out of the 15 were never identified. Most of them would end up being, other cartel members and stuff like we talked about. Kilroy being a white guy from America, that's where they fucked up.
Yeah, that's
when the pressure gets on you.
Fucked up now.
Yeah. Police now needed to locate Adolfo Constanzo and Sara Aldrete, as well as a couple of other members that they knew to be a part of this cartel, but were not captured yet. Both Mexico and the U.S. began searching for them. The day after the graves were discovered at Santa Elena Ranch, Aldrete did not show up at school. She called and said she would not be coming in anymore to school back in Texas. 2 weeks after the last bodies were exhumed from the ranch, the federales decided they would burn the death shack on the ranch to the ground, and they actually took the pot out in front. There's video of it. You can still watch. They took that pot, the ritual pot, out in front of the little building, dumped gasoline all over that and the building, and set everything on fire. And they actually made a point to put this on the news, hoping that the Godfather would see this.
Right.
I feel stupid calling him that. Adolfo Constanzo, that he would see it. I feel stupid calling him the Godfather.
The Godfather. You call him the Godfather, and you like it, Lorne. No, do you think you think they took the weed out of there first? Man, I hope so.
Or they burned it intentionally and stood real close to the
hill, stood out in the field, and everybody just having a fucking good time.
Right. They were hoping that this would upset Adolfo enough to where he would show himself.
Right.
Because, this is what he still believed was protecting him, was this pot of bullshit, body parts and animal parts and sticks and shit. Mm-hmm. And it actually, it kind of worked in a sense that it seemed like he started losing his shit after they did that publicly. 2 weeks after the bodies were exhumed, they did that. And then 2 weeks after that, after burning the stuff publicly, the police surrounded his apartment building on a quiet residential street in Mexico City after he blew his cover, because he'd been kind of losing his shit in his apartment that he was held up in with Sarah and his boyfriend and a couple other people that were close to him. He started burning his money on the stove. I guess he was even taking pot shots out the window at people walking down the street, just losing his mind. So when the police responded to a disturbance at the apartment, they still didn't know it was him in there. But when he saw the police come to the door, he assumed that they were there to get him, and they knew he was in there. That's when he started opening fire and shooting, and there was a standoff with the police. And when he realized that it was all over for him, he would actually end up having a member of his group, D. Valdez, shoot him and his boyfriend. And this was in a little closet. You can see pictures of him all shot up with his boyfriend laying on top of him.
But when his body was found, he had multiple gunshot wounds.
He was riddled.
Both of them did.
He was riddled. And in the documentary, the federale that tells the story makes it seem as though maybe the police shot him, which is possible. This is Mexico.
Possibly.
In the 80s.
Or maybe he just kept missing arteries.
No, but
he was just damn it.
We know. Well, no, we know that his group had automatic weapons, and they were kind of a little cartel going.
Yeah,
so
there's no shoot me once with these fellas.
Yeah, it's he told the guy, shoot me, or else you're not going to be tended to kindly in the afterlife. Yeah. This isn't. So his I'm guessing this D. Valdez just lit him up, just shot him and his boyfriend a bunch of times, made sure they were dead right away.
Huh. That's harsh.
Yeah.
But a hell of a way to go out, I guess.
Yeah, so the police, obviously, they would end up then arresting Sara Aldrete. Elio Hernandez and Serafin Hernandez would be convicted of multiple murders and were ordered to serve prison sentences for over 60 years each. De Leon was given a 30-year term. A total of 23 bodies would end up being found in the Matamoros area that were connected to Adolfo and his gang. Approximately another 40 were found in Mexico City that they directly tied to Adolfo Constanzo.
Gosh.
So that him and his cult were responsible for over 63, or around 63 victims that they are pretty sure that he is responsible for. Most of them mutilated, given to sacrifice. Just a crazy cult story, man.
Right. There's a lot of details that go unnoticed, I think, in this story. I don't know if it's because it's in Mexico or if because they wanted to hide certain things. Or just, I don't think it's stuff that would change the outcome per se, but it's just little stuff like the fact that that detective hinted that, maybe the police shot him up. Well, why don't you just look at the bullets? Why don't you just look at the bullet holes? Why don't you just fucking...
It doesn't matter. He's dead.
Right. Yeah, but but
that's the way they look at it. I think is like, what's the difference? He's dead. Like,
my thing is though, if they would have had that evidence, I think he would have said it. I feel like he would have said it. Yeah. Well, only 2 bullets. The 2 bullets in the head matched the Uzi of his compadre or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the rest of them were police issued.
Right.
Why not say that? Like.
Well, I think also the storyteller. We talked a little bit before the show about how he was a great storyteller in this documentary. It's the main one if you look it up on YouTube. If you look it up,
documentary is riveting.
It is. It's good. And most of it, I think, is true. But he's also embellishing. He's a storyteller. It was a long time after the events that he's telling the story. And, I think there's times, there's one moment where after Federales burn Adolfo's ritual building and all that stuff, he says in his story, he's like, we burned it that day, and then at midnight, I got the call that he was, the police found him in his apartment. It's like, that's not what I read elsewhere. I think he's just saying that, or maybe that's the way he remembers it. But it was 2 weeks after they burned his stuff that they finally got him.
Man, what's 2 weeks in that scenario? Time's just flying. You're not sleeping.
That's my point. Is that the details in a story like this in Mexico, and Cartel involved, where it's just messy. It's a messy thing. There's drugs. There's there's drug dealers getting killed all over the place. They don't necessarily care. The police don't care that much about the drug dealers that are getting killed. I don't think. So there's details that get lost in that sense.
Yeah, there is.
But
we also left out the part where Constanzo and his boys would dress up like cops and DEA agents.
Oh yeah, that's part of how they captured Mark Kilroy.
Yeah, it is.
So let's go through that just real quick to be clear how it went down that night. Mark got separated from his buddy that went to pee, right?
Yeah.
And then he got basically a pickup truck pulls up, and a guy, I believe it was what's his name, Hernandez.
Yeah.
Elio or whatever his name was, that went over and grabbed him and acted like he was the police.
Right.
And got him into the pickup truck and drove off, and then they were going to meet up with more of their gang.
And what was the charge? Being drunk in public, I guess, or something?
I don't think they even made it clear, dude. I don't even know if those dudes could speak clear English much. It was kind of broken. But they got him in the pickup truck, and then 2 miles down the road, they stopped and got out, and they were waiting for a car of other members of the gang to pull up. And Mark actually made a run for it. He took off. He took off running. Yeah. Well, I mean, they were so close to the main strip where all these kids,
so close.
Thousands of kids are partying.
I hate this part of the story,
right? It's like you get anxiety thinking about how close he was to getting away. It's like a movie. If he just made it a mile down the road, he probably would have been.
I picture him in the middle of an empty, dark street, looking down a block down, and there's just lights and people are partying.
Yeah.
It's kind of I imagine it being on a side street at Fremont Street here in Vegas.
Yeah.
If you've never been to Vegas, it's downtown Fremont, and it's like a closed off street. There's nothing but vendors. Well, Lauren can tell you too, but
yeah.
And there's just people everywhere. There's concerts going on and shit.
But then you walk 100 yards down, and it's just a quiet downtown street with old people that live there.
Yeah. It's unreal.
Yeah.
There's this huge screen roof that goes across all of Fremont, and it's the biggest TV screen in the fucking world.
Yeah.
But then 2 blocks down, it's nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Who knows what's going on over there?
Right.
Yeah. That's what it reminded me of when I looked at that, when I was picturing that in my mind. He was right there, and then they yelled freeze.
And so he made a run for it, and what they did was they yelled freeze, and they were pretending to be police officers. They had lights for their vehicles. They had little fake badges and everything.
DEA jackets, all that good stuff.
Him thinking they were actually Federale police stopped, and they re-obtained him, got him back to the ranch where they duct taped his face, all but his mouth and his nose, so that he could breathe, and then they could feed him water and bread.
Yeah.
And it was 12 hours almost exactly after the time that they had kept him at the ranch that Adolfo would show up to the ranch and actually use a machete to kill him. I guess what I read is that they didn't want to wait till the 13th hour because then that would become bad luck or some shit.
That's right.
So it was 12 hours. It would end up being 1 p.m. the following day because they captured him at 2 a.m. It would be 1 or 2 p.m. the following day that they would end up, Adolfo would show up, and he was the one that actually killed Mark with a machete. He tried to he struck the back of his neck and tried to decapitate him, I think.
Yeah.
And then they used the brain for the pot, which is totally just
I think they removed
disturbing.
His legs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they obviously put the wire through
his spinal cord, before burying his body.
Yeah, so that's the actual story of what went down, as far as Mark's concerned. Yeah,
some gruesome shit, man. There's this. How did we not hear of this before?
I don't know, man. It was definitely a great suggestion by Lori Lee. I don't think a lot of people have heard about this. Obviously a lot of people have, but I think a lot of people haven't. I think at least half the audience that listen to this it's gonna be new to them.
Right.
So it's one of those good ones. It's got a little bit of everything in it.
This was a diamond.
It was
out there, man.
It was one of those where it was fun to study, made it easier.
It
You know,
was.
some of them are grind.
I'm interested in like cartels and shit anyway.
Cartels
so.
and cults. I know you're interested in
Like
cults.
Breaking Bad and Narcos.
Yeah.
Like it's just like all that shit. And then you start looking at what they're based on, and it's crazy, man. There's a lot of shady shit that goes on. They get away. They're very powerful.
Oh, no doubt.
Very powerful.
No doubt. So that's this week's episode.
That's it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Now let's get to some fun stuff here. Our first version of Things We Got Wrong
All right.
last
things
week.
we got wrong.
Things we got wrong. Where's your acoustic guitar? We got to write a song for this.
I'll play some music. Maybe there's some music playing right now.
Things we got wrong. You're going to remind us on Twitter and fucking Instagram and Facebook and everywhere else that we got this wrong, because we did. And we're fucking stupid.
Never said we weren't.
Storm, I'm going to go ahead and give you the first one. I said the word persecution instead of prosecution.
How dare you?
Last week when discussing the whole trial.
The prosecution.
Yeah, the prosecution. I understand the difference. It was a mistake in the middle of conversation, and it was too late to fix it later on. But it is what it is. And
It is what it is.
I think
What are you
people
gonna
have fun. People have fun with me. I'm sure I mispronounced a few things that they're gonna remind me this week. It's part of my allure, you know.
Yeah. No, it hurts his feelings, you guys.
It's cute how much shit he says wrong. It's hilarious.
That's
And
why I listen, really. I don't even
Yeah,
listen
I guess
to
D Sativa said that I actually mispronounced last week.
That sounds
so-
about right, yeah.
Yeah. Also, we got reminded that the British, they use the pound sterling, not the euro. I said that they
I knew
use
that,
the euro.
but I was like, but then I couldn't think if there was a difference. So I got confused.
They use monopoly money. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Who cares?
even though it's worth more than ours.
It is.
Props.
Yeah, Michael, this one's yours. This was your mistake 2 weeks ago.
Oh, when I said, what is it supposed
You
to be?
said Jim Clement
I
instead
said
of Jim.
Clement. Oh, God. I mean, fucking crucify me, right?
Right. It's Jim Clementi, damn it. Not Jim Clement.
It's probably Jim Clemente. We probably just got.
Clemente.
Let's just say it all the possible ways. That way we don't get it wrong twice.
Clement.
Him? Clemente.
And lastly, but not leastly, I wanted to say that we're not apologizing for our terrible British accents.
No,
last
you
week.
guys know that.
Begged us for a British episode. You knew we were going to do it. You knew we couldn't refrain from doing
Listen,
terrible
we
accents.
suck at accents. But
You knew that. We've already tried them in the past.
but we don't suck at bad, funny accents. So,
Right?
take that.
All right, mate.
Where are we going now? We going to Australia? Okay.
I guess. I don't know. Now let's give some shout outs. I want to shout out Tammy Ray, who just started listening and shared with all of her true crime loving friends.
Oh, thanks, Tammy.
She sent us a message on Instagram this morning, and you know how it goes. When you message us Friday mornings, right before we record, it keeps it fresh in my mind, and I write it down.
We have short attention
also,
spans.
Yeah, Tammy Ray also hit us up on Snapchat this morning and said she was listening, so you get double shout out. Sugar and Spite, sugarandspite.net. She makes like homemade soap and stuff like that and all kinds of cool stuff. And she sent us a package. We have received it in our P.O. box. We just don't have the package in our hands yet. We will review the package next week when we get it. Basically, the way it works is our P.O. box is my buddy Adam. Shout out to Adam Mize. He has a pool company. We share his P.O. box for his pool company because we're cheap bastards.
We are cheap bastards.
And so, like, he gets the package, and then I have to go get the package from him, and I just haven't had the time to go get it yet. So
We just trust him not to enjoy everything.
I promise next week we will have the package. And so thank you very much for sending that. And if you want the P.O. box because you want to send us something, we will talk about what you send us and review it. If you have a company, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you want to send us some shit to try, let us know, and we will review it. So thank you, Sugar and Spite. Check out the website. Sticker donors this week. Big shout out to Michelle H. in Kingwood, Texas, Aria in Astoria, New York, and Diane in Annapolis, Maryland. You have another one, right? That
Also, Sean in Richmond, Kentucky.
Right.
He donated this morning.
So you can still get our old school vintage true crime guys.
Vintage already.
Creeper vans. Well, there's the
damn.
gold ones that have been hot. So
We retro. Get our retro van stickers.
well, that's the design is retro anyway. But you can still get those. We still have some. We need to order more, but we still have some available. If you go to truecrimeguys.com, on the mobile version, I think it's at the bottom. You click on stickers, or there's a tab at the top you click on, and it'll take you to the stickers page.
Yeah.
And you donate to our thing, whatever, a couple bucks, and we'll send you some stickers. And then also on the main, if you just go on like a desktop, at the top it says stickers. Click
You know
on
what I was
that.
just thinking? What if we have like a contest for somebody to design our new stickers? Let's change it up. Let's get some new ones.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
What
So
are
y'all
they-
send in some designs,
Yeah,
and if we pick your stickers, then we'll do something for you.
absolutely.
Get you something from
and
the
you'll get
store
a
or
bunch of
something.
free ones.
Oh, of course.
Yep, and a big shout.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Cool.
you. Yeah.
I just thought of that just now.
Some iTunes reviews. I want to thank Atomic Betty for a very long and very nice review. We can't read the whole thing, but we did read it on our own, and appreciate the kind words very much. Lincoln Guy, who is Mike in Baltimore, thank you for your review. Ashley Duran, Cartinos, I don't know if you're Hispanic, but Cartinos, we just did a Hispanic episode, so you have to bear with me. I'm going to just make everything.
We're
Cartinos.
sorry for all of it.
Knitting Wolf, Knitting Wolf, I want to thank you. We have a lot of knitter fans.
Well, when you're knitting, I think you need some.
Podcasting and knitting go hand in hand, man.
Yeah, I think so.
Alexa LD, thank you, and that's all I got.
Oh, hold on, I missed a shout out, man.
Big
Shout out to Leroy Luna.
Big Roy.
From the,
Big Leroy.
He's the brother of Jack Luna, who does a Dark Topic.
Your check's in the mail, bro.
Your check's in the mail, man. He'll be there.
He's on our payroll. Yeah. Yeah, so cool. Also a big shout out to Dark Topic.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Guys, Jack Luna over there, he's doing a cool show, man.
And all of the other million true crime podcasts, thank you for choosing us over, or not over them, but with adding us into your rotation. We appreciate it.
Even if we do very much.
Yeah, just
shout out to all the new Patreons.
Absolutely.
It's been overwhelming, guys.
Is it next week that we do a Patreon episode?
It is.
Holy shit, it's already back around. We got to figure out what we're doing.
We got to You're supposed to tell people we got this shit planned, Lorne.
Oh, totally been working on it, bro.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, you know what we're doing. We're doing that guy.
So if you want to, we're not going to be doing an episode, a free, normal episode. We did 3 in a row. It's our Patreon time next week. So if you want to get in on that, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. It's been going really well.
Yep, there's already 3 episodes you can listen to.
We told y'all we would stick with it, and we put a lot of work into those. We put extra work into those Patreon episodes, and people that join seem to love it. You know, we're not putting a gun to your head. If you want to just be a normal true crime creeper, that's all good.
That's all good.
That's all good. But if you want a little something extra, hit up the Patreon. And
yeah, you can also see how incompetent we are when we fuck up when we're recording. That's pretty fun. We put some outtakes and stuff up there. Stupid conversations that we have off air. Yeah. Outtakes that we think will get a bunch of backlash from people on Twitter.
We posted a bonus like stuff that we cut out, and one of the conversations, it was Mike literally explaining a whole entire episode of
The Office.
The Office. That was what you can look forward to.
There's one outtake where Lorne takes a phone call. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So yeah, that's out there if you want it. And any last words? Anything else we missed? Is that it?
I think we've mentioned everything we could possibly mention.
All right. Normal creepers, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And Patreon people, we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping.
Tell me in a sentence who you are.